Hello everybody, good afternoon. Welcome to this discussion where my partners and I are going to talk about first and second language acquisition with information provided in this book, How Languages Are Learned, written by Patsy Lightbound and Nina Espada. In the chapter number 1 and chapter number 4, we are going to explain 4 important things. The number 1 is the process of L1 and L2 acquisition. The second one is the theories of them and their proponents. The third thing is similarities, and the last one would be differences between each other. Today, my partners on the table, César Moreno, how are you?
I'm Freddy, how are you?
Excellent. Alinne Jiménez.
Hi everyone, it's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. And Ivana Mendoza. How are you, Ivana?
Fine, thank you Freddy. Hello everyone, I'm glad to be here.
Excellent. So, first of all, we are going to start with this question. What is language acquisition? What is for you? What it means for you, my friends? Who wants to answer that?
I think it's one of the most impressive and fascinating aspects of the human development.
Yeah, something inactive, right?
Mhm.
Okay, for you, my friends.
Okay. In my opinion, I agree with she. She got right. It's something amazing, fascinating how the humans start to acquire some language.
Yes, it's something impressive because it is a process, and we're going to talk about that because it's something complex, but at the same time it's something that every child has to be involved in that process.
Yeah, we are talking about the environment, right? About what involves the children. Okay, so according to what you said, we can make an interesting question, right? So, how do children acquire the first language? What do you think about it?
Okay, well, according to the book How Languages Are Learned, it says that the first language is a process in which every child needs to get involved in. It says that it's a process that it has a sequence, it's gradual, it's not skippable, and also is predictable because every children in the world has the same process. The stages, yes, thank you, Freddy, in which children acquire their first language. The first one is the first 3 years, the second is the preschool years, and the third is the school years.
Okay, so let's start talking about the order of acquisition where children learn their L1. Okay, so who wants to tell something? You?
Freddy.
Okay, thank you, César.
Oh, and something of the first 2 years. There's something very interesting for us. One thing is the voluntary crying. That's something for the babies, so it's normal. And for us, something like what does it mean? If the kid is upset or he has hunger. The other thing is the auditory simulation. They compute the difference of the phonemic sounds, like the ba and ba.
Actually, I'm not with you. Actually, by the age of 2, children must produce at least 50 words. You know, maybe they are not in a well pronunciation, but they can understand and can tell us demands, etc. So I agree with you. So, another thing, important thing is that they they are able to produce short sentences without use some nouns. Okay, with that.
Yeah, actually then we have the preschool year where the children is begin to be involved in conversation, real conversation, and they are in the playground and they begin to start in contact with the language. So they begin to ask questions and they create stories about imaginary situations, and they use correct word order, and then we have that they make as a grammatical markers, for example the morphemes, they use morphemes, and then they acquire the basic structures of the languages or languages spoken around them, and then they begin to understand how the language, how and why the language varied. For example, why the people, the adults use a different intonation in the words when they are talking with them or when they are talking with other persons. So they begin to distinguish that type of things. And also we have this important concept that is called metalinguistic awareness. And here they develop their knowledge. About linguistics, they begin to understand what is the type of word. For example, they begin to understand more complex situations and this order of acquisition.
So, we have clarified what happens in the childhood, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, now we are going to start talking about one important point, right? About we know that since in the middle 20th century, three main theoretical positions has been advanced to explain the language development. What are those? It's behaviorism, innatism, and interactional, or developmental perspective, right? Who can say something about this, my friends? Okay, César, please.
One example could be mon and person. Oh, let's see. The mom is in the cooking, make the dinner, and persona asking mom, what's that, or something like that.
I'm curious.
For curious.
So
He's
he
practicing.
acquires what that is a carrot.
Exactly.
Okay, what it means. Right.
So I think, in my opinion, that's what is the behaviorism.
That's for you. Okay.
Yes, César, I agree with you. And well, in the inautism, that's the other perspective. Yes, children need the environment to acquire a language, but the most important thing is that children are already born with something in their brain that is called universal grammar. So children are born with some principles that are activated by the environment. They can switch that, and that is the way they start acquiring their first language. Also, this perspective, the inautism, is linked with the critical period hypothesis. That is when that children need to be in contact with people in a period of their life in order to acquire perfectly or in a good way the language. And this period is between 3 until 12, 13 years.
I want to talk about the cross-cultural research. What it means. It refers to abstract knowledge. What is abstract, my friends? Abstract is something that we can touch, you know. So we need to. It refers when the children grow in different cultures. Well, it depends of the context, right? The culture determines how to interact with people, right? So in different groups and etc.
Yes, you're right, Freddy, but something that you missed was that children learn this abstract knowledge by hearing. And
Okay.
like you said, they learn from context, but by hearing.
Thank you, Ivana. Well, as we have seen in first language acquisition, there is a process, and there are some theories that explain how learners acquire a second language. So now, my friends, the question in here is, what is second language acquisition? Yes, Ivana.
Well, for me, second language acquisition is when a person, it doesn't matter if it is a child, a teenager, an adult, learn another language that it isn't their first language. In second language acquisition, there are 4 perspectives that talks about how second language is acquired. The behaviorist perspective, the narrative perspective, the cognitive perspective, and the sociocultural perspective. The behaviorist perspective is present in both first and second language acquisition. And in second language acquisition, it's about mimicry and memorization. This theory was proposed by Nelson Brooks and Robert Laro. And this theory says that second language learners tend to transfer some patterns of the first language.
Yes, like the Croatian theory, you know. Have you ever listened about this theory, friends? No? Okay. Yes. Okay. So this theory is about how the learner acquire the language, but we need to mention 5 important hypotheses that he mentioned in this theory. Okay. So the first one is acquisition learning. Okay. Croatian suggests that we acquire the language as we are exposed, that it is important to mention, because adults get the language, learn the L2, while kids acquire the L1. So for adults that wants to speak another language needs to be exposed, but understand what they are learning. What I mean with understand, when they are exposed with the teacher, with native people, etc., they are acquiring the language both by exposing. In this theory, it's the only theory, and maybe you will agree with me, because it's the only theory that it mentioned that exists the teacher, right? That the teacher have an important role, you know. So
yeah, that means the next theory like is the comprehensive.
Excellent.
Yeah, that means that the teacher talked to us when they giving the class. They try to explain carefully to us that we need to understand.
Yeah. In some cases, the teacher needs to give us or give to the learner conditions, or maybe that
they have to put us in a context.
Yeah,
yes.
That's the word. So that's I think
the comprehensive. The other one is the affective filter.
Okay.
The affective filter means that us that does need to be comfortable with with trying to learn the language. What I mean that we don't need to create a barrier on our minds, because if we do that, we cannot learn. For that reason is the teacher, to help us to talk us in a comprehensible way.
Because what happened when a guy tried to speak and he do it in a bad way, so now the teacher is going to be angry with him. So he's participating in a wrong way, but he's telling something. So it's important that the teacher creates the conditions, and he be a good person with the learner, you know.
Be patient.
Be patient, that's right.
Oh, well, also I think that the learners have to have self-confidence with themselves for acquire or to learn a second language. So that's an important point of the
affective filter.
See, another point is that when affective filter is high, so the learner is not going to learn anything. So the role of the teacher in this case is maintain or keep the affective filter down, right?
Yeah.
Yes, but not so down.
In first language, we have a specific process, but not in second language. But according to the book, says that the process in first language influenced much in second language. So we can see that some characteristic of the process in second language is related to first language.
Okay, so according to what you already said, so what are the similarities and differences between these theories from LA1 and LA2?
Starting with the similarities, I think that first and second language have both the behaviorist perspective. So, in both, learners need someone who is going to lead them to acquire efficiently the language. In first language, they have parents, in second language they have the teacher, or maybe the persons around them who are native or something like that. And the difference is that in first language, the family, the parents are the ones who are going to teach us, and the second language is the teacher.
We have a familiar persons.
Yes, the family is not much involved in that process.
That's right.
Okay, so who wants to tell something more?
And then we have innatism. In this part, we have both theories in first language acquisition and second language supports Chomsky theory in first language acquisition that is in base of universal grammar, right? But in second language acquisition, universal grammar isn't enough to understand the acquisition, or is not enough to explain how learners learn a second language. That's the difference. Right?
Okay, well, another difference and similarity is that in the first language, the kids doesn't care that when they just talk by talk, don't think a lot about the conversation or something. But with us in a second language, we're focused to try to do very well, to do good. That means that we're talking about if we're really doing the subject, the verb, if they are grammatically correct. That's the difference.
Okay, another point that I learned during this course is that, for example, a kid in the L1 they don't feel forced to learn the language, you know. He acquired the language playing, enjoying the life, touching, etc. But in the second language acquisition, the person that decides to learn another language is by his responsibility, you know. So if he study, if he go with the teacher, if he prepare their topic, etc., his homework that helps to acquire the language, he's going to learn it. So he's going to produce. But if he don't do anything, he's not going to learn. So it's an example that we suffer in
nowadays right now.
Yeah, because we try to use our English but in a correct way. As you said, we pay attention a lot and what I'm going to say, but I think that if you try it's going to be good. So I think that's a big difference, because kid enjoys the learning because he's discovering the word, and we're adults, like we need to learn. So that there are a lot of methods to enjoy English too, for example in some cases, but that's a good point to mention. As a conclusion, as we have seen similarities, differences, theories, LA1, LA2, etc. So, do you want to say something, my friends, for the last?
Well, I think that this is something important for us to know, because in this way we can understand how much the context helps us to acquire a language, and not just a language, but also it could be a sport maybe, because if we are in contact with other people and in the same context, we can see others to do something and then we can learn from that. So I think this is important for us to know, especially because we are learning a second language, and this could be useful for us to be better in what are we doing and what are we learning.
Yeah, so César, anything?
No.
That's okay?
Well, in my opinion, my words, I could say that it's impressive how children and how adults and younger person learn a language. It's different, the process, but it's
The same result.
for one reason, is to speak, to understand whatever we want, and that's what can I say
Yeah.
about the
For
process.
me, in my opinion, it's that learning a second language is like be a kid again, but with age and another kinds of objectives. So that's for me as a second language acquisition. But as we saw, there are a lot of similarities, but a lot of differences, and that's all for us. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.